So you know in Oppenheimer, the way they visualized the inner workings of the atoms in the atomic bomb with the tiny explosions on Ratatouille, how when Remy was eating the strawberry and the banana, he was like visualizing all these colors just like coming together. That's kind of how I felt when I was thinking about all these things with the plot formula and how they are applied into different stories. So I decided to, how about I do some videos on some of them. Okay, so for this one, we start with Byakuya. I think the theme is the easiest for this Soul Society arc. Byakuya's theme is that he believes that you should follow the rules over everything. That's his, and then Ichigo is, I will break the rules if they challenge what I value. And then this is connected to the characters. Byakuya is, his backstory is that he's part of the noble family, and he values order. And this connects to the theme because he believes that if he is from the noble family and he can't keep order and he doesn't follow the orders, what incentive does anyone else have to follow orders? I can't spell. Okay, he has to uphold the rules. But then Ichigo is different. Ichigo values, how you'll see in multiple arcs, he values protecting his friends. So when Soul Society's rules go against protecting his friends, he decides that he's going to go and save Rukia. And then, okay, so I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Let's look at the externalizations. I also use physical manifestation, but I think externalization is faster. So how can we take these rules? You should follow rules over everything. How can we externalize? How can we test the value? So what I think I said this in another video, I called it value testing or value tests. It's like a moment in the story where they really test the character's value. He also values his sister. And then the value test for Byakuya is, do you value order more or do you value your sister? Byakuya values order more, which is externalized by him killing his sister because it's a command from the top. But then this is in conflict with Ichigo because he values his friends and Rukia is one of his friends. So Ichigo tries to protect Rukia. And then this puts the two in conflict. And then obviously that would lead to the climax. So from Ichigo's value of protecting his friends, he values his friends over rules. And then from the theme of you should break the rules if they challenge what you value, or you should follow the rules over everything. That's how we get basically that's the core of the story. Obviously there are other things that happen, but this is the core of how the story works and what makes the story good. But then there are also other things. Renji is like a light Byakuya, a Byakuya light or a mini Byakuya, because he's like a smaller version of Byakuya and Byakuya's arc. Because guess what? Byakuya, he also values Rukia because she's a friend. But then instead of valuing the rules, the reason he goes against Ichigo is because he believes there's no hope. And he has a character arc of going from no hope to hope. And he has the belief that he's not strong enough. That's what he's saying in the fight. He doesn't want to save Rukia and he's fighting Ichigo because he believes that he's not strong enough to actually stop her execution from happening. But then after fighting Ichigo and seeing that Ichigo's strong enough, he goes through the character arc of believing in Ichigo is like, please stop her. Please stop this from happening. But then he also ends up believing in himself and starts training. And that's when he unlocks Bankai and actually goes to fight Byakuya. So from this we have Renji versus Ichigo. And then after the character arc, you have Renji versus Byakuya. Now, there are other things in the plot. For example, there's Uryu versus Mayuri. There's Ichigo versus Ikaku. Ichigo versus Kenpachi versus all these other people. There's obviously the Aizen subplot, the betrayal. But all of these things are bells and whistles. They're welcome, but they don't really add to the core of the story. You could have just this part, and the story would still be really strong. But then these things, they just add to the story and really flesh out the plot. So that's all I have for the Soul Society, and I think that's what makes it such an amazing arc. I also think that this is part of the reason I don't really like the Arrancar arc. I mean, I can analyze it and see maybe it might have this character times themes, multiply by theme equals plot, but from just looking at it from the outside, from what I remember, it doesn't really do that well. And even if it actually does have the character and the theme and the plot based around it, it doesn't, the characters and the themes or the things that they're using, it's not that interesting. Like the values, the backstory, the pro theme, the anti theme, those things probably weren't that powerful or well written, which is why either it's because those weren't well written or because they didn't have it at all, and that's why I don't really like the Arrancar arc as much. And then of course there's a whole bunch of filler like this. There are some fights. There's like Chad has a fight and Ganju has a fight. They don't really connect back to the core of the story, but the Arrancar arc has so many fights that don't connect back to the core of the story, and I think that's what also drags it down a little bit more. But the important part is that you don't really need to worry about 3-act structure. I've talked about 3-act structure a lot, but if you do this, you don't really need to worry about 3-act structure. unless you're trying to write a movie. But it can help you. For example, if you're trying to write a movie, it has to be a certain length. So then you can add on things. You can add on little subplots. You can add the midpoint and all that other stuff to try and get the movie to be longer. But if you're writing like a battle manga arc, or maybe just an episode of TV, it doesn't really, well, especially battle manga arc, it doesn't have to be a specific length. It could be as short or as long as you want it to be. So yeah, that is character times theme equals plot. Character times theme equals plot.